Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys joining me for today's video. Got a good one for you guys today. We're going to sort of give a refresher course on fishing a tube. The old school tube here, this thing is still as good today as it's ever been. There's two different ways that I like to fish it. So what I'm going to do here in today's video is I'm going to show you the guys how to rig and how to set up each particular technique that I'm talking about, and then give some tips and advice on how to fish it, the type of areas to fish it around, and under what conditions it works better than any other soft plastic. So we're going to do that in today's video. Also guys, a quick reminder about our Solar Bat April sale on the sunglasses here. I'm on the RB2 and RB3 series. You can get them at 30% off during the month of April. So if you guys would like to get your pair, I'll put the Solar Bat link in the description. And I would suggest getting the Hycon yellow lens. This is the Mossback green here, but that Hycon yellow lens is a little bit lighter, and I just really like the way it lights up the water a little bit better. So link in the description of the video here. Okay guys, the tube, man, this thing has been around forever here. It's been one of the most productive pitching and flipping baits, and one of the most productive baits to use on a jig head of any lure category in history. And I sort of want to talk a little bit, first of all, about how to rig it up, and then how to fish it and where you want to fish it at. So first thing, there's two different ways we're going to show you how to do this. The first one is on a Texas rig, and then the second one is on a jig head, depending upon what you're fishing. We'll get into that a little bit. So the main thing that I want to do here is I want to show you the difference, how to prepare the tube, because preparing the tube is really critical. So and also I'll put my tube links in the description of the video for my Tackle Warehouse link. If you guys would like to order all the components or tubes, you can use that link in the description. Much appreciated there. But let's look at I'm going to show you the before and after, what this looks like here, and show you how critical it is to prepare your tube before you actually rig it. So here's just a straight tube out of the box like that. You can see it's one of the things you'll notice about tubes is most of them are really stiff, because tubes generally have a lot of salt in them. Like this tube here feels really hard. Some of the tentacles are stuck together. So what we're gonna do, first of all, like you guys that watch the channel are familiar with this, we're gonna rough it up and we're gonna break up all that salt all over the tube. Now this is super critical, because you wouldn't think it, but you will lose a lot of fish on a tube if you don't rig it right and if you don't do this. Every time that I do this, I'm increasing the pliability and the softness of the tube. And by doing that, it's not only going to give the tube a little bit more action, look a little bit more lifelike, but more importantly, it's going to allow that hook penetration to be a lot easier in the fish by breaking that up and making the plastic softer. So right off the bat, you can see the coloration, a little bit difference here in the tube. You can see this one, and a lot of it just depends on the color of the tube too, how different it looks. But I've got it all roughed up here. And it's also, guys, come through the tentacles here, because some of these tentacles get caught together. So make sure that like this one right here, see it's caught together. So take some time to spread these open like this. And by doing that, you have more tentacles. See how they're stuck together there? You have more individual tentacles, and the more individual tentacles that you have that are not stuck together, the more lifelike it's going to be. So see how that one's stick together there? This is like how a lot of them come out of the factory. So break that apart. So we got that nice tube action there. Okay, the next thing I do, I'm going to show you how to do the Texas rig first, and then we'll get into the jig head. Now, there's a lot of different type of hooks that you can use on a tube, but one of the things that you do have to have on a tube is some type of an EWG bend in here. Now, you guys know that I use straight shanks most of the time, but you can't use a straight shank on a tube. It just doesn't work good. So I prefer this 2-aught Gamakatsu G-Finesse hybrid worm hook. I'll link it in my Tackle Warehouse link in the description. Light hook, it's stiff, it's super sharp, it's got a nice bend in it. So got that set up, and I'm gonna show you how to rig it here. Then we're gonna talk a little bit about the weight. Next thing you do before you rig it, guys, is you wanna make a slit in it, because you don't wanna just rig it like this. So take your scissors and cut probably about a 1/2 inch up on the tube, and open it up like that. And what that's gonna do is this is going to allow you to only have to penetrate one side of the tube. If you don't make this cut in there, you've got to penetrate both sides of the tube. But by making this cut in there and then running your hook where it comes out that cut, I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Come through about 1/4 of an inch like that. You need to come through enough to get the offset all the way buried in there. Like that. And then you're gonna come through that opening that you just cut right there. So you'll be coming out the back side of it and only have one piece of plastic. See how it's laying there. Now, a lot of times on this Gamakatsu G-Finesse hook here, the hybrid, it has sort of an O'Shaughnessy bend, so that bend will point down. So a lot of times you can just leave it flush against like that. You don't even have to put the point back in there, and it stays super weedless like that and super straight. So I've got this tube rigged up like that. And the next thing is your sinker. Peg your sinker here. And one of the things I'll give you, a tip I'll give you on the tube, guys, go light for pitching and flipping with the tube. I usually use an 1/8 ounce or 3/16. This is 3/16 right here. And the way that a tube will fall on a 3/16 sinker, it's nice and slow. I mean, yeah, you can pitch it and flip it around cover. I've definitely caught, out of all the tube fish I've caught, the thousands and thousands of tube fish I've caught more fish flipping and pitching a 3/16 than any other color, unless the cover is super, super heavy. But if I'm flipping flooded cover like bushes, I prefer the 3/16 because number one, it slows you down a little bit. By having the lighter sinker, you got to slow down, and that's one of the things that will generate more strikes from a tube, is slowing down with a slow fall, because the bait doesn't have any action. It doesn't have any tails that generates a reaction strike from a fish. Because if you guys are using some type of soft plastic that's got flapping tails on it, you can get away with heavier weights because there's more drag with that, but you don't need it on a tube because there's no drag on it. So 1/8 ounce or 3/16, and most of the time pitching and flipping it, I'm coupling it up on the Megabass Alkalies flipping stick, my Okuma reel here, and usually 20 to 25 pound test Seaguar and VizX line. This is my flipping outfit here. Now, what you're looking for, the tube is a really good bait to flip in the springtime of the year. I do most of my tube flipping in the month of March, April, and May. Those are the 3 months that it works the best. Again, it's something about the mood and the personality of the fish, not sure. But basically, guys, just flip it and pitch it around whatever super shallow cover that you have. A tube is a really good flipping bait if those fish are really, really shallow and super shallow water. So doesn't matter if you got docks, flooded bushes, stumps, laydowns, riprap bank, shallow grass, lily pads, anything like that. Just flip it and pitch it around whatever flooded cover, not flooded, but whatever cover you have. And if you do have flooded cover, which a lot of lakes do in the month of May, guys, a tube is one of the top lures to flip and pitch flooded cover. I almost won an FLW tournament at Bugs Island in May several years ago. I finished second in the tournament behind Dwayne Horton, and I was caught on my fish flipping a tube in that particular tournament. So that's the setup there for the tube fishing. Now the next one is a jig head setup. The jig head setup is going to be more for clear water, open water fishing. Really good for smallmouth. all you guys that have lakes that have big smallmouth populations, like up north, this is a mainstay. But you don't have to have it. As long as you've got water visibility of over 3 feet, this jig head, tube head is a really good way to do it. Now, I'll link this in the description too, guys. This is the tube head, and most of the tube heads, they've got some type of either an O'Shaughnessy or an offset bend in them like that, just the way it makes it set in there, and some type of a head that you can slide up in the tube easily. So I'll show you how to do that. First of all, we do the same thing with the tube. With the jig head on it, get it roughed up here. And then you also want to make the same slit, but come up a little bit farther this time. Come up almost an inch when you put the tube head in there like that. And then the next thing we're going to do, we're going to slide that tube head up in that slot right there. Super, super easy. And then run the point of the eye out like that. And that's your tube setup like that. Just cast it on spinning rod. I usually use something like an 1/8 ounce to no more than a 1/4 ounce, but you usually use an 8 to 10 pound test Seaguar and VizX line, Megabass whip snake spinning rod. And in the month of April and May, guys, just fish this around flat banks in the coves. Just go down those flat banks, cast it out there in anywhere between 2 to 10 foot of water. It's a really good way to catch them. And in the month of May, get back out there on those main lake points and the secondary points, because after those fish are done spawning, a lot of them will head out to the nearest secondary point or main lake point, And taking a tube and throwing it on those points is a great way to catch them in the month of May. So try to concentrate on those a little bit flatter points, especially if you have ones with gravel on it. Color selections all over the board. You can see my tube selection here. My main ones are just any type of natural, like green pumpkin and watermelons. Although if the water's dirty and I'm flipping, you know, the black's gonna be really good. And also like an electric blue, something like that. But like anything else, it's just like, you know, go a little bit darker if the water's off colored, and watermelon or green pumpkin if it's a little bit cleaner. But anyway, guys, don't discount the tube, man. I know it's not flashy. It doesn't get the press like a lot of other the new technology creature baits. But at times, guys, a tube is just, it'll get you more bites and good bites too than about anything you can fish with. So hope it helps out. We'll talk later.